Today I'm going to be making an Asian-inspired dish. It's Mandarian orange cauliflower over a bed of rice. It's a little bit like sweet and sour chicken, except it's whole plant-based. I'll be using a head of cauliflower, an onion of course, some green onions, some garlic, 2 cups of tomato sauce, and a can of Mandarian oranges. I usually use the 11 ounce, which is the smaller can, not the real tall one. But before I begin, I usually get started on my rice because it always takes so much time to do. So today I'm going to be doing a long grain brown. 1 cup of rice to 2 cups of water. Go ahead and give this a little bit of a stir. And it usually takes about an hour, so I'll go ahead and get this started. Okay, so the rice is cooking. Now it's time to cut up the cauliflower into bite-sized pieces. I'm going to go ahead and coat these with unsweetened almond milk and then coat them again in some breadcrumbs and some spices. And just go ahead and put the cauliflower in the bag. Okay, so I've got the cauliflower in the reclosable bag. I'm going to go ahead and put some unsweetened almond milk in the bag. And all this is going to do is just to coat all the cauliflower so it just has a little bit of moisture for the breadcrumbs to coat to. Just got to make sure it's nice and closed. Just keep working in that unsweetened almond milk so the cauliflower is now coated. Okay, that's good and coated. So now I'm going to go ahead and get my second reclosable bag and put my breadcrumbs in. But first, let's put a little bit of pepper and some salt. Again, that's optional. Give this a shake around. There we go. So now I got some spices in the breadcrumbs. Go ahead and put that into the closable bag. And then I'm going to take my cauliflower and start coating it. Now as you can see, there's really not much unsweetened almond milk left. I think I used maybe, I think these are a half a cup. So I'll just go ahead and transfer that in. Okay, get rid of that bag. And again, make sure it's closed, and then just begin coating all the cauliflower. And the breadcrumbs are going to go ahead and stick now to the unsweetened almond milk. So what I have here is a baking rack. It's similar to a cooling rack, you know, like for cookies, except this can go in the oven. The reason why I like this is because it has a little bit of like a dry fryer. The air can ventilate around the vegetable and make it crispy on all sides instead of just sitting them on a baking dish like this. So before I go ahead and start arranging them, I like to put a little bit of tin foil so I don't have to clean up all the mess. Okay, so now the air can circulate around all the vegetables, so now I'm just going to go ahead and arrange all the vegetables on this baking rack. So there you have it. Now I have my vegetables laid out on this baking rack, and you can see how the air will be able to ventilate around it, which will give it a crispier edge around the entire surface of the vegetable itself. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put this in the oven at about 400 for about 20 minutes. Okay, so now it's time to make the sauce, so I'm going to go ahead and start mincing up the garlic. We'll go ahead and put these in the pan. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit of water to the garlic. It's smelling really good already. You can always add a little bit more water. Okay, let's just starting to get a little bit translucent, so I'm going to go ahead and start cutting up my onion. Now I like to put just a little bit of pepper in there, and a little bit of salt. Again, that's optional. The garlic is just starting to caramelize a little bit. Don't forget, you can always add a little more water. Alright, so I got a little bit of water in there, you can see in the bottom, just so it doesn't burn things a little bit. But I've caramelized the onions, I've caramelized the garlic a little bit. Now it's time to go ahead and start cutting up the green onion. I usually break up the green onion into two parts. Half of it goes into the sauce, and the other half, the green part, actually goes as a garnish on top of the main dish. So let's go ahead and start cutting this up. There. Now we'll save that for the garnish on top. Let's go ahead and check on the onions and make sure the water's not disappearing. And as you can see, it's just starting to disappear a little bit. So again, I just add a little bit more water as I go. And continue to stir them up. They're getting nice and yellow, so that means they're caramelizing up pretty good. So now it's time to go ahead and cut up the rest of the green onions. And we'll go ahead and put these into this mix right here. We'll go ahead and give this a stir in. So I keep checking the water to see if it's still there. It's got a little bit of moisture in there, so I'm good to go, but I can always add a little bit more as I go. There, that's looking really good. So now I go ahead and just start throwing in the rest of the stuff. I usually like to go with a couple tablespoons of brown sugar. Just put a little bit more water in there. Then a quarter cup of white sugar. I got a tablespoon of tamari sauce. And a little bit of sriracha or sriracha. You know, like a tablespoon, maybe, that's all up to you. Get this going. And then I go ahead and add my 2 cups of tomato sauce. And we'll let that start to stew up a bit. Okay, so I like to let this cook for about 10 or 15 minutes just to kind of get rid of some of the moisture in the sauce. And I'll go ahead and add the Mandarian oranges. Again, that's about 11 ounces, I think it was. And then go ahead and put in my green onions. You got a little bit of the Mandarian oranges with some of that garlic. It's going to be really good. Now I'm going to go grab the cauliflower that's been baking in the oven. Okay, so as you can see, it's kind of a little bit crunchy. You know, it's nice bite-sized pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and dump this into the sauce. Now the thing is, you want to do this just before you're about ready to serve it because it does keep some of the moisture. Let's get some rice. See what this is doing. Oh, this is looking good. We'll go ahead and fluff this up. It's a little hot. Put some rice on a plate. Put that away. And we'll go ahead and get some of this. And there you go. It's like a sweet and sour chicken, but it is whole, plant-based. It is awesome, and I can't wait to taste this. The cauliflower's got a little bit of that breaded crunch.